Hi, all, and welcome to another episode of Digital Dexterity. I'm Wes McChristian, VP of our Kentico practice here at Americaneagle.com. We have what I feel is a delightful topic for you today. We're going to cover off on some really practical use cases of artificial intelligence and usage of large language models in our day-to-day. And to do that, I'm joined by a very special guest who woke up very, very early to be present with us. Andy Thompson. Would you mind just introducing yourself briefly for our listeners?
Yes, hi Wes. Thanks for having me. I'm Andy Thompson. I'm the CTO of Luminary, a digital agency in Australia. So we're sort of headquartered in Melbourne, but we service all of the major Australian cities. I'm the CTO, which means basically I'm one of the owners and directors, but I'm the technology one. So I look after all our tech teams and the tech platforms and everything that we implement. And as part of that, that's sort of trying to head up this the rollout of AI technologies inside the agency as well. And thank you very much for rotating the video up the right way for me this morning as well. It's very impressive software you have.
Oh, that's funny. So, Andy, you and I know each other through our mutual participation in the Kentico MVP program. And you've been an MVP for quite some time. How long now?
Yeah, I think 10 years now. I'm not sure if that makes it my 10th or 11th, but I think it was 2015. So about 10 years now, which is a significant part of the career. But you know, the landscape's changed, so everything keeps changing. So it's still a lot to keep up with.
It absolutely has. And you and I were actually physically in person together recently at a summit. And in the spirit of things changing, you and I struck up a conversation about AI, large language model usage, and how what's the right way to say it? How multiple disciplines inside of our profession are using these tools on a day-to-day basis. So, I think we'll get to the content management side of things. And of course, right, with our mutual interest in Kentico, how we see the product evolving to support AI use cases. But let's start a little bit with, I'll play the role of strategist. You take the role of technologist or developer. And let's talk just kind of briefly here about how we see our teams using these tools to drive value, increase quality, increase efficiency, and how we're maybe both really excited about these things. Because I think that there's enormous opportunities. So maybe if you start, tell us a little bit about your philosophy on AI, how Luminary is adopting it, and I'll do the same from the strategist or Americaneagle side.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you just touched on it there when you said, some of the things you want to be doing is driving value, increasing quality, and increasing efficiency. There are a number of these sort of pillars that we look at, that what we're trying to do is not just one thing. We're not just trying to reduce costs and that's it.
Right.
We're not just trying to make people faster and that's it. And by the same token, we're not just trying to add some kind of product that might increase quality at cost. So what we look at is, when implementing across the whole agency in different ways, we want it to, whenever we're adding any tool really, and AI is one of them, we need it to either increase quality or increase, value. In other words, reduce time cost, or both. And if it's not going to do sort of both, then we probably shouldn't be doing it. If it's going to cost more or reduce quality, you shouldn't be doing it. So we see the introduction of AI tools as the same as any other tool. And we have that sort of philosophy. And in terms of the rollout, in a very broad sense, our philosophy is that we see it in the future as it's table stakes. It almost is already for agencies to be using AI tools. So what we're trying to do is give people the tools. So give people fundamental training in tools across their different roles, not expect them to have to be a little mini innovation department themselves, but just give them the basic tools and training to use this stuff. And then we have a sort of a core innovation team looking at the bigger changes, like changes to the workflows or rollout of significant tools or processes that need to change in the agency. It would be our general approach. Obviously there's very specific stuff per role.
Yeah. Yeah. And it sort of occurs to me, like, you and I both represent the agency mentality in what you're describing as value and efficiency and quality. But I also sort of see us as, I don't know, not quite the tip of the spear, but like, we have a lot of people that will come to us and ask us questions and ask us about our perspective and how we're using these tools, which I think then, like, this conversation also impacts end users, both on the content management perspective as well as like digital professionals that are working in the web that are not part of the agency mentality. Because what I've been doing too, maybe just to share some anecdotes, is what used to take our team weeks in some cases, I'm able to like just craft a really creative prompt, ideate on that prompt, right? Not so like something big bang, but put it into the LLM of my choice. And in my case, I like using ChatGPT. And I can take that multi-week workflow down to like just a couple hours, basically, of work, which is like a really exciting, like, velocity to achieve. It like,
Absolutely.
like some of what I think I had shared with you previously about, like, as a strategist, I can craft this prompt, ideate on it inside the interface, and do things like persona development or journey mapping. I can even then turn that into marketing campaigns or strategic briefs for a presentation. And those are really exciting things to be doing on behalf of our clientele, which then, like, we still have the challenge of making it all real using technology,
Yes.
as the underpinning, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what that really resonates with me also from the technology side. People make the mistake, I think, if they haven't really, got that feeling yet, that had that feeling of, wow, all these things I can now do.
Yep.
They think that they might react by thinking that we're just offloading work to AI, and it might come out as, you hear terms like AI slop and things like that. That's not what we're looking for people to do. You just described taking days or weeks of work, but still spending hours doing it. And it's still you doing these things and you deciding what you want to produce, and you producing more outputs that would have taken you weeks. And you may not have had the space to do that. You may not have been able to do that. And it's the same with on the technology side. What I see in my role as a CTO, often what I'm trying to do is evaluate which path we want to go down, for example, which technology we want to use. So being able to have the luxury to kind of use these tools to superpower yourself and be able to scaffold a project in 2 or 3 different ways, so set up 2 or 3 different entire application structures, or try out 2 different languages, or try out 2 different SDKs or something.
Yep.
You wouldn't usually have the time to do that to a level where you can actually fully test things, or even, you're wondering how difficult it's going to be to upgrade a website. You now have that power to go a long way down, actually trying to upgrade that website and see what obstacles you might be running into. Whereas before, to do that manually, you wouldn't have had the luxury to sit there for a few weeks trying out all these different things. I find that's, for me, that big. What clicked for me a little while ago was that it's not about trying to set up a prompt to do something instantly for you so you don't have to do it.
Right.
It's about using these tools to allow you to do so much more, but you're still doing a lot of work. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll admit I had to get over some like imposter syndrome almost, right? Like, it's like almost this idea that I'm taking credit for somebody else's work. And, to get over that hump, I sort of had to recognize, like, well, as a strategist, things like, market research or tactical development, I would do a significant amount of Googling.
Yeah.
I would research. I would intentionally go out and seek resources that
Yeah.
were, purpose built or, intentionally curated to support the direction that I was working on. And this is very similar in that
Yes.
regard. I'm just, the way you said it, now just supercharged in the results that I'm getting
Yeah.
back in a much more focused and intentional way to
Yeah.
still harness, what we both have is years of experience inside of an ever evolving industry. And
Yeah.
I think that personally helped me sort of really adopt a new and fresh mentality around technology that I think is going to turn into the future of our industry.
Yeah, and I think that that critical piece is still and always has been that you collect all that information and then you refine it down and
Yep.
you get your insights out of it and you get your and you or on my side you make your technology around it, you analyze the risks of it, all that
Yep.
sort of stuff. And I still see that happening, but I used to see it happening before as well. Developers would start any task by you ask a developer to work completely offline without access to Google.
Yeah.
It's a different story. It's a different story, right? And they would, everyone admits it now. Terrified of taking a coding test where they're not allowed to even refer to anything. A closed book,
Yeah.
the CMS exam or something like that. So that's what I'll often remind developers to do is when you start a task, they're already happy to Google, check, back in the day, Stack Overflow or something like that, check, look through your existing code bases, see, have I done this before? How did I do this last time? And I'll just treat it as another tool like that. Let it, gather all that information for you. Or you would turn around and ask the person sitting next to you, hey,
Yes.
I've got to have you done this before? Like,
Fit-
how should I do this? What's the best practice for this? So you already start by gathering as much information as you can. And I think that's sort of, it's almost like, jacking yourself straight into the matrix a little bit with this stuff when you, by just, switching on that AI superpower before you get into it. But anyone who then tries to get it to just do their job for them completely, which I think is a logical next step that some people assume that's what we're expecting people to
Yes.
do.
Yes.
I think it's a very, very bad idea
Agreed.
across all roles, all the way from project managers writing emails, technologists evaluating technology, developers writing code, strategists asking for insights from a large amount of information. Whatever role, if you expect it to do the AI to work on its own, very bad idea.
And let's establish that now as
Yes.
if you leave with nothing else from this session other than that point, this will have been a productive 14 minutes of conversation so far.
Exactly. And that's what I sort of try to get across. That's not what I'm asking you to do.
Exactly.
Yes, I want you to
100%.
use AI,
Yes.
but I want you to use AI. I
That's
don't
right.
want the AI on its own.
Yes, I think we're going to see, at least on the agents. When I say us, on the agency side, I think we're going to see an influx in the next couple years of purely AI driven slop and decisions that was
Yeah.
not properly governed in the
Yeah.
conversation that you and I are having, right? So
Absolutely. Yeah.
so like this is your PSA to use these tools responsibly, because
Absolutely.
they will absolutely make you a rock star. They will make you a superstar if
Yeah.
you are using them in a responsible way.
Yep. But just like so many other technologies, auto completing code in Visual Studio was massive. It was and there's so many, or even just being able to Google things. Back in the day, we used to code. I used to have paper books when I started out. I'm probably a little bit older than I look, but I used to have Visual Basic books that I would read
Yep.
through, learn things, and then I would go and have to, that idea of just being able to Google and have basically just millions or billions of lines of code to just refer to was supercharging, but it didn't mean that we would just blindly copy and paste from whatever someone else had done. You still use your analytical skills, and I think that maps across all roles. It's essentially it's a junior assistant who just works really quickly. That's what it is, isn't it? And you need to see it like that.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, okay. So like, do you have any tips or tricks for validating the output of things that you're asking AI to do for you?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I guess on the code side, I think, again, I would remember that we've had this issue for a long time. Developers work in teams, and validating the output that someone else has produced is a critical part of the software development lifecycle.
Yeah.
It always is, If all we did was write the code and trust that it was correct, development would take 3% of the time that it currently does. Like if you were to actually just type code once and ship it, but we just don't. So why would you expect that to happen with AI, right? So, or even so we usually work in teams. So all the same processes we already have.
Yep.
Like
Good.
Any code that was written must be, written in a separate feature branch, and it must be reviewed. It has to be, checked for security, scanned for security. It has to be merged in. We still have human QA resources who have proper test plans they wrote beforehand. There's writing unit tests.
Yep.
But the irony of all this is you can use the AI to do a lot of these things as well.
Yep.
So it doesn't necessarily mean, we're putting AI all the way through the process. So yeah, AI to assist you with writing the code, scaffolding the code in the first place, writing the code, also doing a code review.
Yep.
Now, it doesn't mean the AI is the only person who does a code review, but an AI code review, interestingly, might miss things humans might pick up, but it will pick up a lot of things humans will miss as well, like typos. It's incredibly good at picking up typos in code, whereas humans are incredibly good at missing them. And then, writing unit tests, AI can do that as well. But humans obviously should review it as well. I think the software development lifecycle is already all about assuming that almost everything you build is broken. So I think it's actually on the technology side of things, it's actually a pretty good fit for injecting another error-prone resource, because it's already designed to deal with humans.
And that's a surprisingly healthy mentality for our line of business. I think just assume it's broken and you go. Right.
Well, I mean, obviously not Luminary's code. Obviously,
Yeah.
not Luminary's.
No. Yeah. And I think, like, from my own experience to using these tools, like, I have a parallel means of validation, just in a different way, right? Like, I'm not unit testing strategy, in other words, right? But what I am doing is looking through all of the responses as I stitch them together and validate a narrative and consistency, and making sure that, over time, as a strategy forms through the use of these tools, that it makes sense. And there are times where, like, using prompts, I'll say, hey, this contradicts what you had said before. Is it accurate or not? Or I'll go and I'll do research somewhere else to validate one or more positions that, ultimately are going to be part of a strategic brief or a solution, to ensure that when I put my name on the document, or your name on the code, right, that, or the technology, it's like that. I want to be a seal of trust, because I've gone out and I validated that like what I'm putting into this document, sure, might have been aggregated from multiple tools, but is a high quality output.
And I absolutely agree. And a lot of people think of large language models, generative AI, purely as producing output, but they're the primary thing they do is they consume and they ingest so much stuff. That's where their power comes from, I think, is that they've basically consumed everything humans have ever written, right? And they're very good at doing that again. So I will often use it because I do a lot of technology strategy work as well, going through and helping people select a CMS platform, for example. And we need to conduct interviews and read through all their technical documentation and diagrams and all that sort of stuff. And I will use it in that situation too, where if sort of backwards. So like say I have come up with some insights or some recommendations, I'll feed that in and go back and get it to consume all of their information and my outputs and say, can you, have I missed anything? Bounce off the AI like almost like you're getting AI stuff and bouncing it off a person. You can do it the other way. You can put your stuff in there and say, here are my 3 main points. My main reasons I think they should choose this CMS platform, for example. Do they check out? Do they make sense? Have I missed anything? Is it correct? And then the AI's output is then for me, not, and my output is for the client. The AI's output is for me. And that's a really nice way to do it. And you can do that in the code too. You can ask it for feedback rather than ask it to output, do your work for you.
Are there specific tools you like using? I'm like in prompts, I like ChatGPT for that. A lot of our team members here have tools like Cursor. What else? What do you have any favorites, any preferred? And we're, of course, don't say Kentico. We're going to get there. So we know Kentico. But before we head that direction, what else?
Sure. The chatbot in the browser or in the native app is fine, but especially with technologists, I'm all about trying to find that next layer of powerful tools. So in code, we're using GitHub Copilot a lot inside Visual Studio Code. Beauty of that is it's you don't just chat with it. It has agent mode in it where it can access your code base. It can run terminal commands on your machine. It can chain together. So you can ask it to evaluate your code base, search things, refactor things, do all sorts of things. So that's super duper powerful. I also used, we use Gemini a fair bit, Google Gemini, because we're on Google Workspace. The equivalent of, gems in Google Gemini, the equivalent of custom GPTs. So when you think of when you write a prompt, it's not about just asking a question. You want context and you want a persona and you want example outputs and you want all this sort of stuff. The beautiful part of a custom GPT or a gem is that you can have all of those, most of those parts kind of pre-baked, and then you really can just join and ask your question.
Right.
I can use that for things like evaluating incoming sales leads, all that sort of stuff with our full valuation framework and everything in there. Notebook LM is another really good one. That's a really good tool for putting all of your sources in there, and that could be anything: YouTube videos, PDFs, references to web pages. And the beauty of that one is that it doesn't hallucinate, and every answer it gives you is strictly correct and it'll refer to the exact page and line in the PDF that it's talking about. So that's a really good one for querying things like technical documentation and specifications, and it just speeds up. So I would even take the time to put documents in there and ask Notebook LM rather than search through a PDF, for example. I could go on, but that's my my current model is sort of if I'm just in the chatbot window, or if my developers are just in the chatbot window, there's probably a more targeted tool we could be using as well to add that another layer of power. Notebook LM is a cool call out because it's really sort of purpose built for research, for basically aggregating and seeking, indexing information that you already have access to. But accelerating that.
Having it send back to you, specific points within the sources you provide it to help make information more digestible, to seek specific pieces of information.
Exactly. Another thing we're using it for, actually, hot tip, is if we've done a large sort of discovery project, or we call it explore as part of our explore, build, grow. So a large discovery project. Sometimes that might have been a different team doing that to the actual build team that's going to end up, if they want us to build it going ahead. So
That's a
if
cool.
we put everything we produced into it, you can use it as basically, a brief bot and then a developer coming in who might ask a little bit, might feel silly asking a question, or might have, try to condense everything into a 2-hour kickoff immersion session or something. It's to be able to just give them access to a notebook LM that has been briefed on everything we've done so far can be really powerful.
That is super creative. I knew this conversation would have some benefits, Andy. I love it. I love it.
If you get two things out of this,
So now, let's talk Kentico too, because I think all of this is in service of better projects and value, as we described earlier. And I think you and I both know Kentico's really headed towards an AI first version of the product that I think you and I are describing in our workflow, almost in our day to day, right? Not, both for personal as well as agency life. So, I think, I'm really excited to see how Kentico folds these tools into content management best practices, because it has just such a great and probably really creative application for webmasters and content editors and all the folks that are living inside of an administration panel on a day-to-day basis, where there's some tedious things that are that can be easily automated. And I think we're going to see Kentico build those things into the product over the near term of the product roadmap itself, right?
Absolutely. And look, one of the big benefits, one of the big advantages Kentico has here, and let's face it, AI. I saw a funny thing the other day. Some people were counting the number of days since we had the Will Smith eating spaghetti video. It wasn't that long ago. You know how bad AI was, and now how good it is. And people talk about that ChatGPT moment that was only 800 days ago or whatever.
Yeah.
So, Kentico has a huge advantage here that they actually have very recently, in the last couple of years, completely rewritten their platform to be completely modern. They don't have really any code debt in the platform, and we're seeing how rapid their roadmap releases are now, and they are loving it. Honestly, I've spoken to their dev teams, how quickly they can pivot, and you and I have seen it. How quickly they can now adapt. They don't have that momentum of this really slow, old product that they need to maintain that direction. They can adapt really quickly. We saw things like Sean Wright, their evangelist. We saw how quickly he released, for example, an MCP, so a model context protocol server, which is essentially just opening the door to AI agents into the CMS in a very secure way. Don't worry. But that, they went from that being a brand new technology to Kentico being one of the first platforms to have one, because it just bang, it was out. And so I think, and we're already seeing that in a few other areas. It's very exciting to see. It's a good platform to be able to very rapidly adapt to the way AI is going, for sure.
And it cannot be overstated that they've already added these tools into the product. So, experience by Kentico, I sort of framed up the discussion point as in this future facing way, but by the way, these things are already there in pieces. One of those pieces, one of my favorites, is some of the tedious stuff that comes with managing content is, tagging, categorization, alt text management, right? Kentico already has AI in place through their IRA feature suite to take care of some of that stuff, which I think is a huge step in the right direction for the efficiencies and the values that you and I are talking about.
And that's a great example of something that not only was that something that was slow for people before, that was something that people, frankly, ended up not doing. A time poor marketer, kind of like, the age-old story from a long time ago when marketing automation started coming out. Everyone would get really excited about it, and then they would realize just how much work it was. And so So creating content for various different personas, for example, all of a sudden when they realize that they have to create 4 times as much content,
Yeah.
It starts to actually not just take them longer, but not happen. And that's the kind of thing that's going to be just so much easier for a small marketing team, or not necessarily a small marketing team, but a marketing team with whose time is valuable, to be able to actually do 4 times as much work with these tools is a perfect fit for a content manager, really. Yeah,
That's absolutely right. So I'm really excited to see what Experience by Kentico, how it sort of assimilates some of these principles and philosophies that you and I are talking about, that we see, really, as part of almost a standard day to day now in the way that we're operating. So that's super cool and something to be really excited about.
Absolutely. Another thing, sorry, one last thing, but one thing I'm really excited about too is that they take a similar approach. It really resonates with me because they're taking a similar approach to not just having not just a one size fits all approach to their AI. They're not just, for example, what a lot of people will do is just implement a chatbot in the interface and say, all done. They're not doing that. They're looking at how they can empower developers, how they can do things like, automate campaign creation, how they can set up MCP servers, and how they can have obviously the IRA assistant throughout, and doing more than just things like answering questions about documentation, but things like helping with the cross-channel stuff, getting content into emails from web pages, things like that. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I agree. It's not just about checking boxes on the feature comparison across product. It's about actually driving usage and efficiency in day-to-day content management system practices, which is
that's right.
Yeah. Which of course we love to see. Love it.
Absolutely.
Okay, as we sort of wind down here, Andy, any last comments, questions, things we didn't touch on that are important in the AI and LLM conversation?
I guess like the couple of things that just sort of keep resonating with me at the moment is that it's not just a move to AI tools. It's not like just now we've got ChatGPT, everyone needs to learn ChatGPT, for example. I think what we've done now is we've entered a new era of tools are now rapidly changing, and we need to expect they're going to keep changing. It's not like that was the revolution, now get used to it. It's not going to slow down. I think that's the biggest thing. So it's not, if you've been dragged kicking and screaming onto a new tool, get ready to be dragged kicking and screaming onto the next one, or learn to love playing with new tools, I think, because it's going to keep changing. And I think the other point is that you mentioned the words AI first before. That approach, I think that mindset is the biggest thing that people need to get behind. It's not about learning a particular tool, not about having a particular skill. It's about having that mindset of when you start a tool, not should AI do this instead of me, but how can I use AI to either do this faster or do this better? And maybe you won't be able to, but think about it every single time. And that's what I do. Everything I do basically now, I start with that mindset of, hang on, could I do this better? They've been my main thoughts.
Yeah, these are really interesting points because so the first one, multiple times recently, I've been asked, okay, I'm thinking of building a new .com or the next generation of my website. How long is it going to be good for? And it's always, and I've always been asked this question, but now it's incredibly difficult to answer that question because of the velocity of tools and the velocity of technology that you're describing. And there's almost
there's the other layer that people will ask, are people even going to use websites? But I would say they've been saying that for a long time. They've been saying that for a long time.
So I that's part of my answer. Even it's like, outside of a 12-month horizon from today, I can't guarantee you are going to be using a website a year from now. I will say I'm not one of the people that believes websites as we know them are going to go away. And instead, what we are witnessing is an evolution of things like search engine optimization, right? We know that websites, traffic, et cetera, we're just measuring in a different way now. But we are still measuring just like we have been for the last 5, 10, 15 years as we've been tracking usage and stats, et cetera. This represents a really critical shift, not to understate it at all. No. But it is, in my opinion, an evolution. So will you still have a website a year from now? Yes. 5 years? I don't know. All bets are off, I think. We'll see. I'm not one of those people that believe that, but I have a hard time putting my money where my mouth is on that time scale, I think.
I think so. I think anyone who actually believes they know exactly what it'll be like in 5 years, that's a red flag.
And what I shared too is you mentioned 800 days. I recall it. It was about 3 years ago. I was at a conference, right? Some of this new novel technology was really just kind of coming out and hitting mainstream. And of course, there was a speaker at a conference that said, within the next 6 months, you won't need a website. That prediction has not come to pass. I don't think
they said the same thing with VR headsets. They said the same thing with voice agents. But I think it's right to be thinking forward like that, and it's right to be evaluating. But I'm not all doom and gloom at this point.
And I don't.
Anything that, what do the large language models love? They love content.
And I don't think it's even doom and gloom. I just think it's like, okay, slow down to speed up. Think about these tools as, as an extension of productivity. Shift your mindset a little bit, because your second point, I caught myself interacting with large language model the way that I've always interacted with Google. Mm-hmm. And I sort of had to recognize, okay, well, that's not the right way to interact with these tools, and change my thinking a little bit. And once I change my thinking, now that velocity for my own productivity has been unlocked, because those tools, Google, search engine optimization, certainly has like one way to interact with it. And now these large language models and the variety of tools that we explored together, there's numerous ways to interact with them. And it cannot be one size fits all.
100%. Yeah. And there's going to be more and more new ways to do it. So you embrace it, ride the wave.
You got it.
I think the way you said it, it's an ongoing evolution. I think is a good way to remember it, and roll with it. It's not a big bang revolution. It's changing quickly, but it's evolving.
Yep. Love it. Well, Andy, I just want to thank you for the really thoughtful, insightful conversation here. I think it's always fun when we have episodes like this where we can just kind of chat about pertinent topics that, I think we probably talk about with our clients and our team members on a day-to-day basis. And of course, amplify those messages, for everybody's benefit. So I just want to say thanks for joining us. Thanks for getting up. Thanks for joining us. This was a great conversation.
Thanks so much for having me, Wes. I'd echo everything you said. I love being able to take the time to have a chat about this stuff and talk to like-minded people. And thanks for having me.
Love it. And to all our listeners, thanks so much. And we'll catch you on the next episode.